Pacers lose to the Nuggets. Some themes we've seen of late. One guard goes crazy for the Pacers opponent. One terrible run sinks the Pacers, but Johnny Furphy is back. Garrison Matthews and Ben Shepherd were both pretty good, and much more from Pacers Nuggets, including Giannis and Chris Paul, coming on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spinning. Today, oh man, Pacers Nuggets. The Pacers play 42-ish minutes of pretty good basketball and 5 or 6 minutes of holy smokes, what just happened? Level basketball and a 15-point loss to Denver. And the headliner of it all, of course, was Jamal Murray, 52 for Denver's Robin. Jokic, the Batman, was pretty good. But Murray was amazing and completely unstoppable because of the mere existence of Nikola Jokic. Much to get to from that. The notebook will open up because two reserve, normally wings, were quite good for the Pacers in this game. Johnny Furphy played again. At the end, we'll talk a little bit about Giannis and Chris Paul, who are suddenly very interesting and newsworthy, although the Giannis stuff took quite the turn on Wednesday night. Look, you could copy-paste Cavs Pacers for this, right? Donovan Mitchell was Jamal Murray. The Cavs run to start the game was the Nuggets run at the end of the second quarter. I mean, this is just what the Pacers have become, right? And you've heard me say this a million times. 42 minutes of this basketball game between the Pacers and Nuggets was played with the Pacers outscoring the Nuggets. The final score of this game was 135 to 120. The 5 minutes to close the second quarter. Let's take you back in time. Pacers bench playing well. Some starters have subbed in. Nembhard is scoring, and Siakam is scoring, and the Nuggets lead is shrinking. And Andrew Nembhard hits a 15-foot pull-up with 5:08 to go in the second quarter, and it is 50-45 Denver. And then the 5-minute mark happens. And then something happened, and the Pacers' only basket the rest of the half was a Ben Mathurin 3 with 48 seconds left. The Nuggets, in that same stretch of 5 minutes, scored 22 points, which would be about a 50-point quarter. The Pacers, again, scored 3, which would be about a 7-point quarter. It was just awful basketball by the Pacers. I mean, like, both of those numbers in 5 minutes are terrible, 22 and 3. I mean, immediately, right away, right? Bruce Brown layup, Bruce Brown finger roll, Cam Johnson 3, Jamal Murray pull up, Jokic pull up. It was everybody. And then, of course, it was a lot of Jamal Murray. He hit 3 threes in the final 2 minutes of the half, and they just exploded. 22-3 stretch. If you're good at math, that's plus 19, and would mean for the rest of the game, 43 minutes of basketball, the Pacers were plus 4. That doesn't matter. I mean, you're playing from behind the whole game. Obviously, the game flow changes if that run doesn't happen, things of that nature. I'm not saying it's that simple, but we see time in and time out that the Pacers can be as good as some of these teams for very, very long stretches, and then they're just awful for one stretch of play and they lose. And I've continued to bring that up as like they're close to having a better record, or like they're doing some interesting stuff. Maybe it'll all click. They won 2 in a row, blah blah blah. But it's also the flip side is like, they're 5-8, or I almost said 5. They're 4-18, and a quality or a principle of being a bad team is that something like that is possible, right? I'm not saying it's impossible that who's the best team in the league? OKC, obviously. I'm not saying it's impossible that a team could go on a 22-3 run against the Thunder, but it is way, way, way less likely it would happen to the OKC Thunder than the Pacers, right? Denver, who the Pacers just played, their defense has been terrible of late. It's way less likely that Denver and their talent and ability level would concede a 22-3 run than a team like the Pacers, right? So obviously that's part of what makes the Pacers bad. And 4-18 is that something in them makes it possible for them to have this happen to them every game. And yet it is still factually true that something in them also makes it possible for them to be as good as pretty good teams for long stretches of games and still dramatically lose by 15 points. Like, it's almost the shocking part of these runs too is it's 22-3 so fast that they lose by 15. Like, this game will be remembered as a blowout, and it should be. The Pacers were blown out, but they were good for a lot of the game. And it's just really really bizarre that this keeps happening. The reason the Pacers could not make a dent in this one, despite a good offensive game, the Pacers shot 52% from the field, 46% from deep, got to the line a bunch, kept their turnovers at a reasonable number. The reason they couldn't keep up, their defense was not great. They fouled 24 times. It's obviously bad, was Jamal Murray, who is just unstoppable in this game. And it just came, and not out of nowhere, but like my first note of the game was about the Nuggets, besides Jokic not even really being that threatening. To the Pacers' credit, I put to the Pacers' credit, defending non-Jokic pretty well for the first few minutes. And then Murray gets free for a three, and the defense fades. And you can't have the defense fade against Denver because that's Denver's thing. Their defense isn't very good. Their offense is spectacular. And Murray just never went away. It was basically Donovan Mitchell, but even stronger in this one. Like the bench would come in and make a dent, and then Jamal Murray would come back in and go, screw y'all, I got this, and just make a billion shots. So he finishes this game with just an amazing stat line. 52 points, stop right there, full stop. That's bananas. The Pacers starting five combined, or the Pacers, whatever we have determined their name to be, big three, best three, whatever, of Mathurin, Siakam, Nembhard combined for 54, barely outscoring Murray by themselves, right? Like he was that good in this game, and he cooked everybody. He had the tough matchup of Nembhard at times, no problem. Got Ben Shepherd at times, no problem. Mather a few possessions, not very many, no problem. And throughout the game, you'd see, and some of it was just like tough threes. 10 made threes out of 11 attempts, by the way, which is just bananas. Like a lot of questions about like, well, how can they guard him better? Well, like some of that is just like that's like a once in a lifetime, not for Jamal Murray, but for most players, a once in a lifetime game. Yeah, you can contest those better, but he can also barbecue you from other places, like his 9 for 14 on twos. Got into the paint to score, drew a few fouls. He led the Nuggets in free throw attempts, 4 assists, only 1 turnover. Like he was just perfect and precise and hard to guard. So one is they just couldn't stop him. And of course, you have to be very talented to score 52 points. But this is the second 50-point score the Pacers have seen this season. Shea on opening night being the other one, albeit much different circumstances. Shea's was a lot of free throws. Murray's was basically no free throws. He had 4. He had 48 points on made shots. I think Shea finished like in the high 30s, low 40s with his point total in his 50-point game. But like Donovan Mitchell just happened 2 days ago. They could not contain Donovan Mitchell at all. And he was drawing threes and he was getting open and he was getting in the paint and he looked amazing, right? And so this is clearly a thing that even if the Pacers are struggling with these guards, and they've got to find a way to be better against these studs. And they have on their team guys who have been answers to these guys on huge stages in the past. Like we know the Pacers are capable of better than this, but they haven't been, and they deserve to be graded on what they have been of late, which is very bad. The other part of this that a lot of the Pacers and Rick Carlisle were right to talk about postgame is the difference between this game and the Cavs game is, while the Cavs have other good offensive players, many of them weren't playing, and Evan Mobley is not even in the same stratosphere of threat to your defense as Nikola Jokic, who in my opinion, is the best player alive. And Jokic exists in this game. Jokic had an extremely, for him, not for most players, for him, pedestrian stat line. He was amazing. 24 points, 8 rebounds, 13 assists, and 4 turnovers. Like, that's a not good production game for him. And he was plus 26 because when he is on the floor, he gets all the attention, and he should. He gets all the attention from a defense. Someone is on him. Someone else is close by. You're always aware of where your man is. You're on high alert. And if you double Jamal Murray, which you can do, he scored enough that you have to think about it. If you double Jamal, this is a legitimate question. You're going to laugh. He had 52 points and made 10 of his 11 threes. What is more threatening? That or Nikola Jokic playing 4-on-3 because you're doubling Murray? Like, it's actually a real discussion to have. And I think the answer eventually became Jamal Murray is more threatening because he was just on freaking fire. But that's why you get so resistant about changing your scheme against Denver is like, you want to give Jokic openings? You want to tell him that he can just go score with ease, or like one of his teammates is going to be wide freaking open every play? Good luck. Good luck. There were some plays where the Pacers would put more pressure on Jamal Murray, and then Jokic would have a little release valve. And hey, here's Bruce Brown wide open. Bruce Brown, 14 points on 6 for 7 shooting. He was fired up, right? Like it was easy. So the Pacers defense deserves some blame. Their 5-minute just malaise of awful in the late second quarter deserves some blame. Their Murray defense / star guard defense deserves some blame. And generally, they just weren't good enough. They were not good enough. Denver was better. We've seen these themes a lot, and we saw them again on Wednesday. Credit the Nuggets. Credit Jamal Murray. He was awesome. Awesome. That is like the most fun way to watch a guy score 52 points. He just can't miss. He had one that was the most home court shooter's bounce I've ever seen, and it was on a possession. Dustin O'Pearek sitting right next to me in media row. He's handling it for a couple seconds. I was like, oh, he's shooting on this play. Dustin's like, yep. And then he goes left a little bit. And he goes right. He didn't even move that much. And then he finally just decides to shoot his three, and it hits the front of the rim hard and bounces. And it's like, okay, it's his night. He was amazing. He broke out the blue arrow. Good for the Nuggets. They needed a get-right win, I guess. They smoked the Pacers. Some stuff did go the Pacers' way in this game, mainly some less heralded wings, and Johnny Furphy is back, and we'll do a little bit of early notebooking because I want to talk about Giannis and Chris Paul all coming on today's Locked On Pacers podcast. But first, everybody, need to tell you about Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets, changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but I never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part, live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making it your first listen today and every single day. Make your second listen Locked On Nuggets. Hear them talk about the Pacers and Jamal Murray and whatever the Nuggets did that just got them going after some yikes losses from them. The Nuggets, Locked On Nuggets was not a happy group. Matt Moore and I just did Locked On NBA's daily show together 2 days ago. And we talked about Denver not playing very well and Jamal Murray being hurt. Hilarious. He showed no signs of injury. Okay, let's talk about some wings for various reasons in this game. One is Johnny Furphy. He's back. Everybody wanted to see Furphy. I can't believe this. It sounds like an insult. It's not. The best thing that happened for Johnny Furphy in this game is he exited it without getting hurt, right? He played on opening night for the final minute, but he probably might have been hurt already or did get hurt in that minute, and then he missed the next 4 games. Then he played against Golden State. Pacers won. He played. There you go. Then he played against Milwaukee, and he got hurt. 2 of his 3 games entering today, he got injured in. I'm not calling him injury prone yet. It's super early, but that is a thing that happened, and he played this game. He played 16 and a half minutes, and he did not get hurt. That's good. The Pacers should want to see a lot more of him, right? If you've listened to this podcast every day, thank you for being an everydayer. You're the best. A big part of what is frustrating for the Pacers, besides being 4-18, is that they haven't been able to evaluate the Furphys, the Joneses, et cetera, of the world. So getting chances to see Johnny Furphy is good. That said, he did not do anything, right? He was the first sub into the game. He got caught on Jokic a few times. It did not go very well. The Pacers lost 6 minutes by 6. He had 2 rebounds. He's got a nose for the ball. He didn't take a shot. He had no assists. He had no steals, no blocks. I'm not even saying he was particularly bad. It was his first game in a month, right? I assume he'll be much better, more involved in future games, but there's literally nothing of real significance for me to really dive into besides him getting caught on Jokic and then not going great a few times. He played, he didn't get hurt, and that means we can watch more Johnny Furphy going forward, which is fun and exciting. 2 other wings, though, that did play were good, and one of them is turning ahead in a way that is noteworthy. Let's start with Garrison Matthews, who scored 9 points, and he made 3 shots, and he took 2 twos, and he made both of them. He was actually providing some toward-the-rim pressure with his gravity. The Nuggets were determined to run him off the line, and it kind of went well. So something to keep an eye on here. The Nuggets went zone against the Pacers bench. That's not something to keep an eye on. That happens a lot. They bring in Matthews. That's good. You want a shooter against that. He makes a 3 in his first stint. And then he had the best defensive rep he's had with this team so far. The game that he played against the Wizards last week, he was terrible on defense. He was on Jamal Murray for a possession in the first half of this game and shut him down and forced to stop. And then the Nuggets got an offensive rebound and scored anyway. But it was like, whoa, look at Garrison Matthews moving his feet and doing real things. And so that was noteworthy to me. And then he had the transition layup, and then he had a driving layup through the Nuggets. And I was like, dude, is this even the same guy they had on the first 10 day? And I laugh a little bit because throughout his career, he has shown the stuff that he has done in these last 2 games, but he was not good his first 10 day. He even basically said that after Pacers Cavs on Monday. So this is what he is capable of. I'm not saying that the last 2 games are what he should be expected to do every night, but this is in there for him. He played 20 minutes. The Pacers won his minutes by 10. Like, Garrison Matthews was pretty good. So one, keep tracking him because he's played well 2 games in a row. But really keep tracking Garrison Matthews because Johnny Furphy plays and Garrison Matthews plays. That's 2 wings. That means the Pacers rotation had to be different, and it was. Jeremiah Robinson Earl did not play until garbage time in this game. Robinson Earl is good. He's a better defender than Matthews. He's a much better rebounder than Matthews, but he is not as good of an offensive player as Garrison Matthews. And so I wondered post-game, I asked Rick Carlisle about, why did they go to Matthews instead of Robinson Earl? It's just a matchup thing. How's this going to be determined? We'll see, because the zone for the Nuggets is what I thought got Matthews in, and then he was playing well. But keep an eye on that, right? If Matthews plays better than Robinson Earl or is deemed to be a better fit, Robinson Earl's deal is non-guaranteed. That is worth keeping an eye on. They play the same position. They're both wings. Matthews is older. Right now, I would, of course, be saying that Robinson Earl, should keep the spot. He has a longer track record of being better, but this is at least something to monitor, as they say. Also, Garrison Matthews is 4 years older. So in terms of development for this season, that matters. But Matthews is like, if his shooting is real, that's helpful for the Pacers next year too, if he'd be around. So just keep an eye on that. But Garrison Matthews played more and was better than Robinson Earl in this game. The other reserve wing who said, hello, everybody, I'm here. Ben Shepherd, he's rolling. There's a couple of good games in a row for Shep, which, given how he was playing, is extremely noteworthy. He went 2 for 4 against I forget who, and I said anytime he shoots well at this point, it's worth talking about because he shot that poorly. That was, I think, Toronto, and he had both of those threes in that comeback stretch. 2 for 4 from 3 against Toronto, 3 for 4 from deep against Washington, 2 for 4 from deep against Chicago. Then he missed all of his shots against Cleveland. Ben Shepherd tonight, 5 for 5 on all his shots, made all 3 of his threes, 5 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 14 points, plus 3 in 18 minutes. Ben Shepherd's best game of the season, I would say, or at least competitive with that strong game he had against Charlotte, which was largely on inside the arc stuff. He had 18 points against the Nets. He was not as good that night. He was good on opening night. This was very, very good from Ben Shepherd. Rick Carlisle postgame, of course, saying the same things we always hear. Ben Shepherd plays hard, plays fast, plays unselfish, provides pressure, and this time he made threes. And again, this is the same thing he said about Garrison Matthews. He made threes, and they believe he can. Andrew Nemhart said post-game he loves playing with Shep. He showed why in this game. He was very good. He had a shot early in the game. I thought he was dialed in because he had this possession where he actually messed up, to be clear. So he catches against a rotating Nuggets defense and shot fakes, and he actually gets by his man. So good shot fake, good drive, and then tried to throw it to the corner. Just a horrible turnover. Like, you can't have that at his level of shooting this season, where you're turning it over there too. He entered the game at 25% from 3. With 5 for 5 more, his shooting percentage will go up, not a lot, but a significant amount. So that was not a good play, but the read was all good. And then in the third quarter, the start of it, he had this gorgeous stretch with a driving dunk and then a steal and then an overhead pass to Mathurin in the corner and then a 3. In the midst of a bad game for the Pacers, he was balling. Good to see Ben Shepherd have a nice game and a nice stretch now. He's at 5 games, although he was not good against Cleveland. He's at 5 games in a row of pretty capable play. And Walker had a stretch of capable play that kind of faded, although he was fine in this one. That is at least noteworthy, but Shepherd being good is, of course, noteworthy. A couple more here, and then we'll do a couple more notes on the backside of this break before we talk about Giannis and Chris Paul. Isaiah Jackson had a gorgeous drive early in this game, moved Jonas Valanciunas out of the way and finished, and I thought, oh, cool, maybe this will be an Isaiah Jackson game. That became very clearly not the case. He finished 3 for 4 with 6 boards, like his stat line looks nice, but he had 3 fouls and just very clearly on some rebounding plays. This is the exact type of opponent that's hard for him. 2 just gargantuanly and strong centers, Jonas Valanciunas and Jokic, were just not good matchups. For Jackson, he played 16.5 minutes. They turned to Tony Bradley for real minutes at 13.5, and Jay Huff was not effective either. He was 1 for 6 from 3 and couldn't get it going. So really tough game from the centers. Pascal, again, was talking about the runs post-game. And it's just, to him and a lot of these guys, it's so what I mentioned earlier, so frustrating that they have capable good play for a long time, but they can't turn it into 48 minutes. They can only turn it into 42. And I'm using that phrasing now from Pascal to ask the questions to others, because I think that's very telling, and it makes others really dive in to think about, like, what is going on here. Bruce Brown is really into this game. He was like yapping with Lloyd Pierce at one point. I don't know if it was like actual serious or not, but it was very interesting to see that kind of happen. A couple more guys I want to talk about: Jarris Walker, Tony Bradley, Ben Mathurin, TJ McConnell, and something he might be doing to combat injury, and a couple more things coming up here before we talk Giannis and Chris Paul on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, let me tell you about Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is going to be the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats with Game Time. You can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy the tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You just pull up the app. The layout makes it simple to scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. That seat view feature is a game changer. You can have your tickets locked up in minutes. The prices include the fees up front, so there's nothing hidden at the back. Alerts for teams and matches make it easy to get the tickets you want. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets and World Cup tickets with Game Time. Every match, concert, or event, you can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, Game Time. And we're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day and being an everydayer. Listening every day is the best. It's that time of year where Spotify Wrapped and YouTube Wrapped is a thing apparently comes out, and people tell me how much they listen to me during the year, and it is like the most heartwarming day ever. I can't believe people spend that much time listening to me talk about their favorite sports team, and I'm forever grateful. It means so much to me that people want to listen to the things I say and interact with me about the Pacers, and I hope I make your fandom experience more fun. Your second listen has to be Locked On Bucks. I mean, what? Whew, do I even need to say it? They beat the Pistons. That was nice. But Giannis got hurt. Giannis trade, maybe? They lost the Wizards this week. Yikes. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. A couple more notes. Just generally from the game, the Pacers are taking, a lot of really tough mid-range shots early through the zone, floaters on the move that I thought, what are they doing? But then the bench came in and took some of the shots, and they were awesome. The bench was good. For a lot of this game, the bench has been good, or good enough, I would say, several games in a row, right? We're barely going to get to TJ McConnell today. He had 14 and 6 and was really mobile. The day off-ish helped him a lot. Jarris Walker was 4 for 7, a quiet 11 points. He was pretty good. Matthews was good. Tony Bradley was bulky and helpful, right? They got a lot from the bench and against a good Denver team. A lot of good plus-minus numbers, too, from those overlapping units. So that was extremely noteworthy. Something that bothered me a lot for the Pacers in this game is how many times they passed out of open shots. They had open threes that they were just not taking. They only took 28 in this game, and granted, they made a lot of them. They were choosing good ones to take. They had a possession in the second quarter that just was infuriating to watch, where they created a good three, and then they passed it up to keep it moving, and the next guy had a decent three, and he passed it up to keep it moving, and that guy passed it up to keep it moving, and they turned it over. Like, shoot the ball. That's the whole point of creating an open shot, is to take it. It's not good to great shot if it's good to no shot, right? They have to be on that there. I have a lot of notes that I'm deleting now that are about the last 5 minutes of the second quarter, stretch we already talked about. But the fourth quarter, totally capable play. Pacers managed to come back and had a good offensive game and lost by 15 because they couldn't stop anything and had just an awful run. TJ McConnell, keep an eye on this. A sleeve on his previously injured leg. I've never seen him with one of those on like his hamstring knee area. Keep an eye on that. New look TJ McConnell fighting the injury. He played very well with it, so hopefully it sticks in that way. Jarris Walker took in-rhythm threes very quickly in this game. He's kind of slowed his approach down as he's made more shots recently. I thought that was really good from him. Keep an eye on his shooting. He's been shooting very well recently. Ben Mathurin had a weird game. I think a lot of people were really critical. He had 15 and 7. I thought he played fine. 2 assists before turnovers. I don't think it was necessary. He's had 3 games in a row where, like largely either his stats were bad and I thought he played okay, or his stats were decent. And I'm like, yeah. And this one, though, he had like a really patient twirling back bucket around a screen that was nice. He had some really patient approaches early where he missed 2 in a row, but I love the shots. Like, I continue to think he's making serious and real progress, but there's some games or some moments of late where it hasn't felt quite as zippy and active as it did maybe early in the season when his point total was really zooming. Last note is Tony Bradley, 2 games in a row. Last time it was about his on-the-move, hilarious pass. Unfortunately, it was a turnover. This time, he was defending Jokic kind of well on ball and hit a jumper, like a decently long jumper. He took 6 free throws. Tony Bradley, productive. There are some games where he is among their best 2 centers, certainly. This was one of them. Okay, I made you wait 25 minutes. Let's talk about these 2 guys now, and if they actually get credibly connected to the Pacers, we'll talk more about them. 2 studs, legends who played each other in the 2021 NBA Finals in the news. We'll start with Giannis. Giannis and the Bucks, they lose to the Wizards earlier this week. Pathetic bad. You can't lose to the Wizards if you're trying to win anything. And the Bucks did. They lost to the Wizards. And then, of course, there's all the stuff about his Instagram being scrubbed of all the Bucks stuff besides a few things and all the unfollowing and all that. He's done that before in 2020. He's still on the Bucks. Like, I don't really read into that, but it did happen. But then Shams reported that Giannis and his agent are like preparing conversations with the Bucks about their future and partnership and all that stuff. Yikes. That's not good if you're the Bucks. Like, I want the stud players to be in their market forever, man. It just means more. But I get why Giannis would want to be on a different team while he's basically in his prime and is amazing, and the Bucks are not playing very well. So, of course, that is the first part of this is, could the Pacers get Giannis? So let's go to Milwaukee, Detroit, where in the first 3 minutes in the game, Giannis goes down with a non-contact injury. He did kind of limp off, like he didn't have to be carried off the floor. It looked exactly like his calf injury in 2024. So I didn't think it was an Achilles like everybody else seemed to think it was right away, even though it did not look good, of course. And it's not an Achilles according to the Bucks. We'll see if they're right. So maybe he could play again this season, but that obviously could be a factor in any trade thing for him if he's had a long time with the muscle thing. I would guess it's a calf injury, maybe a serious one, but not good for Giannis and not good timing for the Bucks who have all this going on. Look, let's make this very clear. If Giannis is available, every single team should have interest in him. That includes the Pacers. He is amazing. He's one of the best three players on the freaking planet. Like, I can't believe how many people like see. I've seen a lot of fake trades today that I'm like, oh, the Spurs can't include Stephon Castle. I'm like, shut up. Yes, you do. That's like a thing you do. If Giannis is available and the Pacers are like a possibility for him, he's under contract this season for sure, and the next season for sure. So if you get him this year, you could get, I mean, not the Pacers, but the other teams could get 2 playoffs out of him. Like, that is extremely noteworthy, right? The price will be very high as a result of that. But the challenge for the Pacers, of course, would be the same thing I've said for other studs. The salary matching would be very hard at $54 million unless Haliburton or Siakam are in the trade, and like you'd want to keep them if you get him. But obviously, I understand. It's Giannis. Yeah, you try if you're the Pacers. Obviously, I'm not going to guess what the trade package would be. I'm just generally from a planning perspective saying if the Bucks would somehow even humor trading him in division, which would be hilarious and make no sense. If the Bucks would even humor that, or Giannis is like, yeah, I really want to play in Indy. And then some. If you see Indianapolis International Airport suddenly have a direct flight to Athens, keep your nose to the ground. All this to say, the very obvious. If Giannis is available and the Pacers aren't like a ruled out option, yeah, they should absolutely pursue it and see what it would take. But I don't think they could put together the best package, nor do I think they'd be high on Giannis's list, which probably will matter to the Bucks or to the team acquiring him because, yes, he has an extra year on his deal, but it's not so long. But yes, he's awesome. He's amazing. He would immediately be the best player to ever play for the Pacers. I know a lot of people would say, oh, they can't trade for the rival, but like, dude, he's one of one. He's amazing. So we'll see what happens with his injury. And that is my take on that. If he's available and the Pacers can get him, they absolutely should pursue it and see if it's the right fit for them or if the price makes sense for them. And then there's Chris Paul. Legend, a Clippers legend on the Clippers, goes to a multi-long hour meeting with Lawrence Frank, their GM or president or whatever, at 3 a.m. and they send him away. They can't even cut him. They're too close to the aprons to just get rid of his contract. They legally cannot trade him for 10 more days. What a doozy. I love Chris Paul. He was not playing well this year. He was not even planned to be in their rotation, but Bradley Beal, of course, got hurt. I was always a fan of Chris Paul, like in college. As a player, he's 40 now. It's his last season. Who knows what it is? I'll say this. For a young Pacers team, a vet like that can have value. He's very good. And for any team, a vet like that has value. You get his retirement tour. I mean, they'd have to trade for him. I guess if he got cut, the Pacers could just outright sign him. But I don't think the Clippers will cut him because his contract's fully guaranteed. If they could trade nothing and get him, like, yeah, I guess. But I would say this. I do not think Chris Paul should be in the Pacers rotation. I think he'd be well behind Nembhard and McConnell in terms of ability. Maybe if you want to do some 2-point guard lineups for a couple minutes here and there. But like, if you're 4-18, are you really like, yeah, we should get a 40-year-old, right, to play? No. If he's going to be an awesome vet, maybe that would be something worth exploring. So same thing with Giannis. If the price is right and you can actually see the tangible, obviously they see the value of Giannis. He's amazing. But if you can see the value and the price is right, go for it. but that doesn't seem like something that makes sense. Does that, you know what I mean? I can explain why it does make sense, but it doesn't seem like something the Pacers would be like, yeah, we should so obviously be putting together a package for this 40-year-old point guard. But they could use a third point guard. He's not a bad player, even though he's playing bad this year. If he would be a sage vet, because that's the other thing. The Clippers are like, yeah, you're actively harming us. All right, they wouldn't send him home if that wasn't the case. So is me saying he seems like a sage vet even true? I don't know those dynamics very well, but Giannis, the Pacers would have interest in because he's one of the best three players alive. Chris Paul, because he's one of the three smartest players alive. So just interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. Looking forward to seeing how the trade market starts to develop. We're like 10, 11 days away from December 15th. I'm not expecting the Pacers to make a trade the very first day like they did last year with Thomas Bryant, but you just never know, man. This stuff develops very quickly in the NBA. That's it for those guys. If anything credible with those players' names and the Pacers is reported, or I learn it, I guess, I will talk about it. But until then, yeah, sure, if the price is right. Thank you all so much for listening today. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. We'll be back tomorrow with Eddie Garrison talking about this Pacers team, where they're at, Furphy, where they're headed, things of that nature. And then, of course, Pacers versus Bulls on Friday. I'll be in the United Center for that. You'll have a podcast after that game as well. Thank you guys so much for listening today. See ya very soon.